Okay, let's talk about Ethereum. You know, the king of smart contracts. It's standing at a massive fork in the road right now. And its future, well, it's totally up in the air. And the next few years are going to decide everything. So, to really get what's on the line here, we're going to jump forward in time a little bit to the year 2026. And no, this isn't some sci-fi thing. It's a projection, right? It's based on the roadmap and all the challenges that are popping up right now. And it gives us a pretty clear glimpse of what could happen. And that really boils down to this one huge question. Is Ethereum about to become the undisputed go-to platform for, well, everything? Or are we starting to see the cracks that could bring the whole thing tumbling down? All right, so first up, let's look at the bright side, the bull case for Ethereum. You got to understand the network isn't just sitting around. There's this absolutely massive technical upgrade called Pectra, which is slated for early 2025. And a lot of people see it as a huge turning point. It's like they're completely retooling the network's core engine. So Pectra basically brings three game changers to the table. Way more data space, making it easier for the big players to stake, and a radically better user experience. And what's cool is that each one of these hits a major pain point the network has had for years. Okay, first up, increased blob capacity. I know, it sounds a little weird, but what does it actually mean for you? Well, basically, it doubles the data space available for Layer 2 networks. And the results? A massive drop in transaction fees on platforms you probably use, like Arbitrum and Optimism. It makes using Ethereum way, way more affordable. Next, we've got staking. So before, the most you could effectively stake with one validator was 32 ETH, while Pectra just blows that limit out of the water, jacking it all the way up to 2,048 ETH. This is a huge deal for the big players, the institutions, because it makes managing their assets so much simpler. And hey, it's not just for the big guys. It helps out solo stakers too, by making it easier to compound their rewards. Now, this next one, this might just be the most important piece of the puzzle for getting everyone on board. It's called account abstraction. I know, it sounds super technical, but what it does is actually incredibly simple and, honestly, really powerful. It opens the door for things like wallet recovery. So think about it. The fear of losing your life savings just because you lost a string of words, those days could finally be over. It makes crypto wallets feel more like the normal apps we use every day. But listen, all these tech upgrades, they're really just one part of a much, much bigger picture. The end goal here isn't just to make a faster, better network. It's to unify this entire sprawling ecosystem. But to really get the vision, you've got to understand the problem they're trying to solve. It's called liquidity fragmentation. You see, as Ethereum grew, hundreds of these Layer 2 networks have sprung up. The source material calls them separate islands, which is the perfect way to think about it. All this money and all these users are scattered everywhere, making the whole thing feel really disjointed. And the answer to that problem? It's something they're calling the Ethereum Economic Zone, or EEZ for short. It's this huge plan to connect all those separate islands into one single system. And the holy grail here, the big dream, is transactions without bridges. Imagine moving your assets between networks just as easily as you send an email, with none of the risk. And you better believe the big money is paying attention. With the approval of Ethereum ETFs, the floodgates for institutional cash have just swung wide open. And as this quote says, major investors are starting to see ETH not just as some speculative coin, but as the fundamental fuel for the digital economy, kind of like digital oil. And all of this is driving towards one massive number, 100,000 transactions per second. You know, for years, that number sounded like pure fantasy. But now, with the roadmap they've laid out, a lot of smart people in this space think it's actually within reach. Okay, but let's pump the brakes a little. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Because for every awesome development we've talked about, there's a pretty big risk lurking just around the corner. The road ahead is definitely not clear. And this quote right here, it absolutely nails the core problem. It's a classic double-edged sword. The very thing that makes Ethereum so strong, its slow, careful, security-first approach, is also its biggest weakness. Because in crypto, if you're slow, you can get left in the dust. And when you look at the speed difference, it's pretty stark. I mean, while Ethereum is working hard to scale up, networks like Solana are already flying. This has let them just grab huge chunks of the market for things like NFTs and high-speed trading, where every single millisecond is critical. So if you boil it all down, the risks really fall into three main buckets. First, you've got that fierce competition, from the Solanas of the world. Second, this crazy fragmentation of its own ecosystem. I mean, a new L2 is apparently popping up every 19 days. That's nuts. And third, there are real worries about centralization, with just a few big players dominating the staking game. So this table here kind of lays it all out, right? The whole competitive scene. You see Ethereum's strengths, rock-solid security, this massive army of developers. It's the foundation for serious finance. But then you look at speed, and Solana is just crushing it. It's the king of fast payments and gaming. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is kind of playing its own game, using its layer 2s to double down on being the ultimate store of value. Everyone's finding their own lane. So, after all that, where does this leave us? We've seen the huge potential with things like the Pectra upgrade and this grand vision for a unified economic zone. But we've also seen the storm clouds gathering with all the competition and internal struggles. It's time to figure out the final verdict. Really, the whole battle for Ethereum's future boils down to this. On one side, you've got these powerful tech upgrades, a huge vision for a unified system, and Wall Street finally coming on board. But on the other side, it's slow, its competitors are lightning fast, and its own house is a bit of a mess with all that fragmentation. So what's the mission? What does Ethereum have to do to win? It's pretty clear, actually. It's a two-part mission. First, it has got to pull all those layer 2 islands together into one cohesive whole. And second, and this is key, it has to use that new, unified system to make the whole experience dead simple for the average person. And that really leaves us with one final, and I think very powerful question. Because in the end, success isn't just about who has the most transactions per second or who's the most decentralized. The real test, the thing that will decide everything, is whether using this incredibly powerful world computer can feel as easy and as normal as tapping an app on your phone. That is the billion-dollar question, and the answer is going to define the future.